preview show, we'll just dive into our first segment, which is transfer tips. So here in the transfer tips, we're going to go through each position that we like. So I'm just going to start off with the defenders. So we have chosen one defender each. My defender for this is the guy I think is the best value in the game, and I think it's Digne. I think Everton has been really strong, obviously, in keeping clean sheets. And Digne, I see Digne as like Alexander-Arnold Jr. because they both on set pieces. They're both playing for a team that usually keeps a lot of clean sheets during a season. But he's 1 million cheaper, so I think there's plenty of value in having Digne right now. Not much else to say, really. I think he's a bargain. So, Sam, who's your defender?
So the guy I like is someone that people have been a little bit wary of going into the season, but I still think he provides really good value, and it's Zinchenko from Man City. There's still really been limited news on Mendy coming back. Zinchenko hasn't disappointed when he has been playing for City, and I think it would be pretty harsh to bin him straight away for Pep. There's a chance it happens, but I think at 5.5 million, he's such a good option. He's got the best XG and XA of the defenders, I believe, higher than Kyle Walker, which surprised me. Given I thought Walker had been particularly attacking in at least the first game at West Ham. City play pretty much the host of teams who have the lowest XA and the XG in the league in the next kind of 8 weeks. This run goes to Brighton, then it's Norwich, then it's Watford. After that, they've got Everton, who we've mentioned in the past have struggled with goals. They keep going. Wolves. Palace, Villa. There's no top 6 sides in here. Southampton, and it's not until Gameweek 12 they play Liverpool that I have any concerns about them failing to pick up points. I would be surprised if they didn't keep clean sheets in all but maybe 2 or 3 of those games. And I think at 5.5 million, he's just going to provide great value. The kind of flip side is that I would hope that John Stones makes a recovery before Ben Mendy. So even if he does lose his place, I like to think there's quite an easy little flip there to John Stones, so you can kind of keep that run going. But yeah, Zinchenko's the guy that I would be more than happy bringing in next week at home to Brighton, which for me seems like a great chance for clean sheet for them. So yeah, who have you got, Yogi?
Guess what? I have Zinchenko.
There you go.
Like I said, I know it's a little mad to say in the day and age where Mendy is on the horizon, but then again, Pep has said he wants Mendy to play a full 4 weeks of like demonstrating his fit, and I think he's so tired of having Mendy injured that is easing him into it. So I think, and Zinchenko has some real good attacking stats. Like you could look up whatever attacking stats you want, and Zinchenko is high up in everything. He was one of the players that created the most chances during the Bournemouth game.
So let's go to the midfielders, and I have gone for Mount here. I know he's an injury doubt, but I just brought him in. He looked amazing. He looks like his confidence is so good when he's around the box. The way he just went past the Norwich defenders, it was like so obvious for him. He just knew what to do, and I have a hard time coming up with a guy whose shot I like more. Whenever he strikes the ball, it's like really hard, all of his shots. So it's really fun player to watch. He likes to take a shot from a lot of areas, and he's very good at it. And yeah, 6 million for a Chelsea CAM is kind of amazing in my opinion. So Sam, who do you got?
So I quite fancy a punt on Heung-min Son. I thought he passed the eye test for me as much as any player possibly could in that Spurs performance. He took 6 shots. He had the best XG of any of the Spurs players in that game. Made 2 key passes, and he looked positive. And when they were kind of falling into the habit of going a little bit sideways, a little bit stagnant, he was always the one that was happy to take the ball and drive at the defence. I think those kind of games are actually quite tough for him. I think this is one of the reasons why we sometimes got surprised by Son last year. I think he operates best in games where there's a bit more space. So although it was good that he was driving and positive, I would have no worries about playing Arsenal this week, because I think that's the kind of game where it will be both teams will be trying to attack, and that's when he will be able to, I mean, it would be really great if Eriksen would be playing, because I can see him picking the ball up on the counter-attack and kind of playing those balls in behind that Son can get onto. But we don't know if that's going to happen. But they've got a really nice run after that as well. They then have 5 games where they don't have to play a top 6 side, and I don't really worry about them getting goals out of Arsenal as well. So I think Son could be a sneaky option now that he's back, and he won't be in too many teams given that he missed the first couple of games of the season. So yeah, that's who I went for.
I know who I said last week, and that was Mason Mount. Can I say him again if he's fit?
Okay.
If you don't allow me to say him, I also wrote up Trossard, which also has some pretty good underlying stats. Maybe not for this game week, but like maybe
He did have good stats for this game week as well.
Yeah, but maybe not bring him in before City. But
yeah, okay, yeah.
Then again, after that, he's good.
Yeah.
But I would say Mason Mount.
Okay. Nice and easy. So let's go to the forwards. This is one of the most. I would say this is the most interesting position. There's a lot of like really nice options. We would really like to have more forward spots in our squad, but I went for the guy who's the highest scoring player in FPL, which is kind of boring. But the nice thing is I haven't put him on as a transfer tip before. I've just said he's a cool differential, I think. So now he's on my transfer tip list, and it's Pukki, of course. And he had a tricky game last game, and he scored 11 points. This guy looks like he can do anything right now. I think you have to try to hit people's form when they are in form, and it's hard to go wrong with the form he's in right now. And he's facing let's see, he's facing West Ham. It's not a great defensive side usually. And then it's Manchester City, but it's at least it is at home. So, and after that, the fixtures are kind of nice for them actually. So that's my forward.
Yeah, there's a guy that is I'm just going to mention his name, but he's not my main choice. I'll probably forget to mention him next week. But the reason I'm not picking Ashley Barnes is because they play Liverpool at home. Scored a great goal this week. That's all I'll say. But yeah, he's definitely on a good run. I'm actually going to pick someone who is a big name, but maybe hasn't had his name mentioned very much, which is Aubameyang. I think he started the season well. I thought he looked positive against Liverpool. Had one chance where he got in behind him, was just a little bit slow on the shot. I think it was Matip that covered it really well. But yeah, if I was wildcarding and I had to pick between him and Kane, I would be picking him at the moment. I think he looks a lot better. But again, like I mentioned with Son, the Spurs game this weekend, I would easily play both of them because I could see it being a 4 or 5 goal game. And I think there's returns there for all of them. And then he's got a nice run of fixtures as well afterwards. In fact, the only top 6 side they play until week 17, which is 14th of December, the only top 6 side they play are Man United, who I think we can agree he could definitely trouble that defence. But yeah, he's got an absolute sea of green between now and basically the end of the year. A couple of juicy games after the Spurs game are Watford and then Aston Villa, who both have pretty poor defences from what we've seen. So yeah, if you're in the market for a premium striker, he'd be the one I'd be going to.
Well, I'm just because I'm a little mad. about losing out on the player I'm gonna mention, I'll say go Tammy Abraham because he's now going good. But who I really want to mention is Sebastian Haller. The front flipping, back heeling, bicycle kicking. He's going for Giroud's most spectacular goal award, I guess. West Ham has some nice fixtures. Lanzini and Felipe Anderson looked rather awake, and Haller was just there for everything. Like looking at the highlights from the Watford match, it was just pure fun to look at him. I know I say that a lot. People look fun, and when I say people look fun, it's just then that's sort of a good sign for me. He was in good position. They were great at counters. So sort of West Ham looked good now compared to what it did earlier this season. So that's my real shout. But let's say Tammy Abraham then.
Cool. So next segment, we have Captaincy. I can only see one captain for me. I usually have two options and one who I'm thinking maybe I should punt on this player, but I don't see me captaining someone else than Raheem Sterling this week. So I'm not totally in agreement that it's like a super easy game because I think Brighton can defend well against the bigger teams, but still there's a decent chance they will concede a lot of goals because City is so good this year. But I'm not taking anything for granted, so that's what I'm saying basically. But I just don't see myself captaining anyone else. So Sam, who do you got?
Yeah, I'm not gonna pull up any trees here. It's Sterling for me as well. It's it's in some small part motivated by the fact that, with the exception of Kevin De Bruyne, all of my other midfielders and forwards are playing away this weekend. So that's good planning by me. Yeah, he had one of his quieter games against against Bournemouth this weekend. Still looked good. Still scored a goal. Yeah, I think Liverpool might struggle a little bit at Burnley. I think Burnley have started the season under the radar pretty well. Very, very unlucky not to get a clean sheet at Wolves this weekend, which I'm not going to talk about anymore because it's made me so upset. But yeah, they've been good. I think Liverpool could be limited to a couple of goals, whereas if City go off, as much as I've also been impressed with Brighton under Graham Potter, City, as you mentioned previously, they're just completely on another level, and if they were on their game, they could score 4 or 5 against any team in the league. So yeah, Raheem Sterling for me as well. What have you got, Yogi?
Well, I should say something different, but I'm going to say Raheem Sterling is just... There's not much to say, really. It's been covered.
But would you have Aguero if you had him in your team and Sterling?
Maybe go for Aguero as well, yeah. Because I don't know how reliable Jesus is still, if he's going to start or not, if he's going to be fit. That's just too big of an uncertainty, so I would say Sterling.
Okay, Sterling.
Anyway,
Pep
just to save yourself the headache.
Yeah, Pep said that Jesus was out until after the break, so I would actually, if I had the two, I would actually captain Aguero because those kind of home games against the weaker sides, I just think he feasts off those, and we've seen him score hat-tricks in those kind of games. So if I had them both, I probably would captain Aguero, but I'm not worried about Sterling at all.
The others, where we pick one differential, it's hard to just pick one, right? So I'm gonna do an honorable mention because these two guys, I think there's 3 guys that looks like this. It's Joe Linton in Newcastle, it's Wesley in Aston Villa, and it's Haller. And they all look like Rondon did last year, basically. They just chests it to themselves, keep off the defender, being a beast. I love to watch that kind of player. So Yogi already mentioned Haller. So, okay, I'll go with Wesley. He has a great schedule, and he looked really good last game. And I can only see Aston Villa improving in their goal scoring. So Wesley for me, the differential of this week. Sam, who do you got?
Yeah, I also wrote down 2 honourable mentions. One of them was Wesley, so that's good that you've covered that. One of them was Joel Matip, who I thought was great at the end of last season, was unlucky to lose his place, and looks like he has it back, 5.4 million, good stuff. The guy I want to talk about is, I'm very sad that we don't have Mitch, because I know how much he would love this. Manuel Lanzini, who I think has been absolutely brilliant, and he's a player I've rated for as long as I can remember watching him. He's so talented. That West Ham team's starting to click a bit now. Obviously, that first game against City was a complete blowout, as a lot of people expected. With a natural finisher like Haller up front, he's only going to be able to create more assists. So in the 2 games since they played City, he's created an assist in each game. He's also played, I think he played 87 minutes in the last game, but he basically has played 90 minutes in all the games. I think at 6.5 million, if he's fit, he's such a great option. They've got good fixtures for the next sort of 6 or 7 games. And I know it's a price point which is kind of, there's quite a few options around there, but if you're one of these people who is sort of looking for a fairly like for like replacement for Ayoze Perez, I think you could definitely go for a lot worse options than Lanzini. So he's my choice.
I like it. Yeah. Yogi, who do you got?
Oh, we really should have had Mitch here, because I'm going to say Mark Noble. A 5.0 player, which really has some good underlying stats and also started to tick off together with West Ham. So if you want yourself a midfield enabler that's rather cheap and might give you some good returns, Mark Noble is your go-to guy. So that's my other guy. So I guess West Ham is the answer of who you want to punt on.
Yeah, we had Haller too in the transfer.
Yeah, well, Haller, Lanzini, and Noble, and just bring in West Ham.
They're going to do a madness.
Yeah, but I don't think any of our option now really is any bad tips at all, I would say.
No. Perfect. Let's get on to the next and last segment. So it's Expendable or Dependable, where we guess approximate numbers of how likely we think it is that players gonna start. And we've been like 80% correct about this. I looked it up. So we're pretty good at these uncertain players and getting them right, and which is really convenient for your viewer if you're considering one of these. So the first guy is James in Manchester United. I have him at 80% to start because I thought he was quite bad in the Gameweek 2, and then he gets the nod in Gameweek 3, which surprised me a little bit. So I guess Solskjaer has a lot of trust in him and he wants to start him. So I think that he will play, and I also think it's very important for their defensive work and ball recovery phase, and probably doesn't get credit for that hard work enough. So where do you have James at, Sam?
Yeah, I have him for 85%. Sadly, one of the main reasons for this is I just think there's not a lot of options behind him. One of the positions that United knew they had to strengthen this summer was that right winger slot. I think he's taken to it very well. There's been some interesting expectations, I think, of him by some of the fans who maybe aren't appreciating that this is a guy that's taking his first step into top flight football. At the end of the day, he's provided 2 goals in 3 games. He is positive. He takes on defenders, and I don't really want to talk about his reputation for diving. He was wrongfully carded in the last game, but I think there was an argument that he went down very easily under a couple of tackles in the Wolves game. But he's young, he's learning, and he's positive. Yeah, I think Solskjaer will be starting with him next game.
Well, there's not really that much more to say, is it? Other than my percentage, which will, just for the sheer fun of it, 75%.
Okay. So next guy we have Tammy Abraham, and yeah, Yogi. I think you guys should trust Yogi's number more here, but anyway, I think Lampard is very happy with Tammy Abraham right now, but looking at the minutes, last couple of games, I'm not too confident on Abraham, so I'm not going to say like a huge percentage here. So I've gone with 70%. Just the fact that they have Giroud, they have Batshuayi, I think is going to start anytime soon. So that's probably why I won't even consider Abraham for a transfer this game week, because I don't think he's nailed enough for me at least. Sam, where do you have him?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly what you have said actually about Yogi. I'm more excited to hear Yogi's talking than I am to talk myself. I would have him at 75%, and the reason is for the three strikers that Chelsea have, he is the one that is going to offer the most to them long term. He's just scored 2 goals, and a home game against Sheffield United. It's just another great. I know they're still good in defence, but a game against a team that's just been promoted is a great opportunity for someone like that to just whose confidence is growing every game to go out and score another goal and just really, take that next step and I think kind of improve his self-belief even further. So I think he'll play. But Yogi, take the floor.
That's a tough percentage to guess. I guess I'll give some reasoning. I think he is the most nailed-on striker of the Chelsea squad, because I can see Giroud being the Champions League and the League Cup player, sort of, and Batshuayi being the substitute striker. Because I think Tammy resting in game week 2 is a result of Lampard just saying, okay, just you had a bad game, you had that penalty miss, just sit out, cool down, and just play a little less minutes and let Giroud play instead. And then starting him again this match and showing what he does. Like, you see how much faith Frank must have put into Tammy in during training, because the first thing Tammy did when he scored his first goal was just run over to Lampard and give him a hug. And it sort of shows that this might be a recurring thing, and I think Frank is trying to build that. I've said it a couple of times. It looks like he's trying to build sort of a complete young squad with Tammy, Mount, and just trying to get that group collective going. But it's a rough spot, so I wouldn't dare to say more than between 75 and 80%, I would say.
Yeah.
It's so hard to guess.
Yeah, of course. But we're pretty much in agreement there anyway. So next guy we have Iwobi, and I've surprised myself a little bit with his number, but I just thought he looked great. He looked like they really need him. So I put him at 60%. I first wanted to put him at 50, but that's not saying much to the viewers. So I think it's a little bit more likely now that he'll get the nod. I know Bernard has been pretty good and probably is preferred, but after a performance like that from Iwobi, it would be a little bit surprising to not see him get a start after that. So Sam, where have you him at?
I've still kept him at 45%. Definitely not a reflection of his performance. I thought he was really good. I think they've got more options. They have got quite a lot of options on the wing, and I do think Silva has enjoyed using him as an impact sub. I would hope and expect this would be the last game week I will be predicting he doesn't start. Once the international breaks out of the way, I think he should definitely be returned to his 100% fitness after not really playing the preseason. So yeah, I've just err on the side that he might be the impact sub again, but I'm excited to see what he can do against Wolves for sure, because he'll definitely get some minutes, whether it's as a starter or off the bench.
Well, if my name was Marco Silva, I would take notice of what happened when Iwobi came on after that abysmal start of the game, and I would really consider him starting for that matter, because Everton changed the pacing and Calvert-Lewin just looked dreadful. However, I think Moise Kean is more up the starting list than Iwobi yet, but share Helville, let's say 45% that Iwobi also starts.
Okay, so kind of a coin flip. Anyway, for FPL, not really that interesting yet, probably, until he's nailed. So last guy we're going to talk about is Keane. So this guy, I know he was decent at Juventus, and he's a good talent. The thing that struck me last game week was how poor Calvert-Lewin was. I really thought he was not just missing that big chance, but he just looked, he's not that kind of quality like the other guys I've talked about, like Wesley and Haller. Calvert-Lewin is decent, but he can't play on his own up there. And that's why, it's one big reason why they aren't performing, because Digne can put a cross into anyone in the world. But yeah, there's something about Calvert-Lewin's awareness and technique that isn't going to cut it for Everton. So it's the same thing here with Iwobi for me. It's the Keane. I would have him at 50%, but as I said, it doesn't really give you a lot of feeling for which I lean toward. And I lean toward him starting, actually, as I think that Calvert-Lewin was too poor to keep playing, basically. So I have 60%. So what about Sam's prediction?
Yeah, I am going to slightly go further than that, and I'm going to put him at 65%. And the main driver behind this is actually the reason I think that is not necessarily about the fact that when Keane was subbed on, he played alongside Calvert-Lewin. He wasn't subbed on for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which is an interesting tactic by Marco Silva, and it kind of, I like the fact that it's not just one or the other, and they do have systems that they can use them both. Because whilst I definitely agree that Calvert-Lewin's been underwhelming, one thing that has impressed me from what I've seen of him is his hold-up play is not bad. He is quite good at winning headers to bring others into play, if not so much just scoring from them. And I think he's a relatively intelligent footballer. So I would like to see them play together. It could be that I still think there's a decent chance he plays one up front against Wolves, and Moise Kean is the guy he chooses, which is the other reason why I've kind of lent towards the fact that I think he'll play. But yeah, either way, I think they were. I mean, we talked about it on our review. They were very poor in attack against Villa last Friday, with the exception of Digne playing in cross after cross. There was no one finishing them. They need to try something else up front, and I think he's what they need to try. So yeah, 65% from me. What about you, Yogi?
Everton changed up completely when he came on, so I guess he really should start. It's sort of hard to come up with new arguments, so I just say a percentage, and I'm gonna say 75%. Woohoo!
Woo! Perfect. I love that. Okay, so that was our show, ladies and gents. Hope you liked it, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel. We really would appreciate that. And if you're interested in asking us questions and we'll answer them, we have our Patreon, so check that link below for those reasons, and if you want to use our guidance in that way. But anyway, have a great game week, and thanks for joining us.